Hey everybody, it's Logan. I'm joined by
Jason.
and we're going to talk about, I guess, sort of our unfortunate views of the current meta right now.
I think what we're actually doing is like a no Nas, no Necro kind of experiment,
And why are we doing that?
and we're just focusing on the main engines of Mystic Remora, Ristic Study, and Smothering Tithe in the current meta right now, and their huge prevalence.
So why are we avoiding Nas and Necro and all that stuff?
So those cards kind of put a timer on yourself because like you gotta actually have the life to spend it. But if the games are dragging on for like 2 hours, 3 hours, you won't have that much life to convert into.
And not even just real
cards.
life time. If they're dragging on 7+ turns, I mean, your life total is going to go somewhere, right? And it's not upwards.
Nope, it's not. And with Ristic Study, you just draw cards even if there's like a 7/7 on board, you can still draw cards.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, I mean, I did make a point about the current meta and where we're at right now, but I think that it's very heuristic focused, of course, and sort of ignoring that or trying to get around that is a bit of denying reality.
Yeah, it is. Like you just see at least one draw engine in every game or a Smothering Tide, and those engines usually like warp the games very hard. Like it's hard to try to jam a Nas or a Necro through a Ristic Study, and if
Or multiple heuristic
yeah,
studies.
and if you fail, you just basically hand someone else the game because you drew them like half your deck.
I think the fail state is really an important thing to acknowledge because while those cards are incredibly powerful, what is your failure state when you're like, let's say you nose into a pile, you only are able to nose like maybe 20 life, and then you're left with something. What are you left with?
Yeah, you're basically like if you're failing a Nas, that means you didn't convert all your mana or tutors, so you probably ended up having just dead cards in your hand or
Mhm.
cards that you can't really cast, and then you're kind of dead on board to all the creatures in play because you're pretty low life after you fail a Nas or Necro.
Or you're dead to a stray lightning bolt from a Rog Thras or something, right?
Yeah,
And I think it's harder to convert those Nas piles or Necro piles into wins right now because we don't have cards like Dockside anymore.
yeah. Unfortunately, no more Dockside, no more Mana Crypt, and even Jeweled Lotus was pretty important for trying to get your commanders like to
Yeah.
even Diabolic Intent them away or turn on your Mox Amber or even just to turn on your Mox Opal too.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about where we're at, especially with like some deck lists. I think Jason has worked on a Blue Farm list, and I've alluded to in other videos a Rogsai list, which is full of copium. But I think we can just kind of dive into it, right?
Yeah. I think we can dive into it.
All right. Let's see if I got them queued up right. This one.
Okay.
As we can see by the description.
Yeah,
What is this
yeah.
full of?
It's a little cope cutting ad Nas and Necro because I think they're still great to try to convert your advantage into wins, but this was just really a thought experiment. As you can see, there's a consecrated Sphinx in the main board.
We do live in Denver after all.
yeah, this is the Denver secret tech, but
Well,
um,
you might hear Eric in the background.
yeah, Eric's laughing.
So you talk about like not converting the Nas, but like, is it the consistency that's kind of pushing us away from those? Because those cards, I still win with the cards, right? But
yeah,
like,
it's just I think with all the draw engines in the meta, the windows to try to jam a Nas or a Necro are way slimmer, and if you have your deck just built around that, it's not really prone to success in that way.
and you're leaving out like some high mana value cards that are extremely powerful because you're worried about taking those giant chunks of your life total out.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
And then Necro is kind of similar pattern, but almost in an opposite way because you don't care about the mana value of the cards, but Necro in the late game is much weaker, right?
It feels really bad when you're low on life and trying to convert a Necro too. You also have to try to resolve Necro itself, and then also a Flash enabler too. So you're more prone to like Mind Break Trap, even the Dispel on the Born Upon a Win too.
Yeah, and having yeah, like you said, almost like that A plus B combo because Necro can work in certain decks like Glarb because Glarb you can look at the top before you Necro each card, and then you can kind of more efficiently use that information to choose what cards you're getting.
Yeah.
But sort of doing that blind necro for like 15 or 20 and then hoping that there's that flash enabler, it's kind of just a gamble that a lot of times isn't paying off.
Yeah, it is. And then like if you're doing it late game too, like you're trying to go all in at that point, and if you're doing it early game, right, it's really hard with minimal resources on board. Usually like Necro and Smothering Tithe are like a semi-great combo because you have all the mana
Great
you need.
synergy, more than a combo.
Yeah. It's great synergy. But you just don't have the mana to convert early game, which is usually when Nods and Necro are the strongest.
Yeah. And I think about like what we're talking about here, we're not trying to make any definitive statements about these two cards or this sort of strategy overall. I think we're just sort of assessing and taking a look at the meta and the play patterns that we're seeing and the cards that we're seeing that are powerful. So when you're looking at that for the list that you're building here with Blue Farm, which I think you're pretty experienced on, I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure. I think like
what's your top deck rank right now?
We don't have to talk about that. It's a little boosted because of
sure.
Crom, you know.
Yeah. The deck carries you there, right?
The deck carried me too.
Well, do you think this deck can carry you there?
I'm not sure, but I guess we can dive into it, right?
All right. Yeah. So we said Consecrated Sphinx. I'm not really seeing anything out of the ordinary. Are you normally on Fairy Mastermind?
No, not really.
Okay.
Usually I cut Fairy Mastermind for an Archivist actually because it survives Bowmasters. It's got like a weird, neat interaction with Tithe where like you can have your opponent's draw cards and then you make mana. Usually that's not something.
But
you
in this deck,
do.
it's ever so slightly mana negative, right?
Yeah, it's -1 on mana.
Right.
But if you really need to draw the cards, that's something you.
Yeah, it's a good way
happen.
for 1 mana. Essentially, you're drawing a card, right?
Yeah, so you can crack your top deck tutors like Enlighten, Vamp, Imp Seal.
Okay, and are you on Oppo here or Oppo normally?
Usually I'm a control gamer, so Oppo sees play in every black deck I see. It's just a super game warping piece of interaction. Like you just cast it on a demonic tutor and you've basically countered their demonic tutor and also tutored up something from their hand or from their library.
Yeah.
And usually it's like a value piece or even like a game ending spell, and you also get to Gitaxian probe them and just look at their hand while you're controlling them.
That's pretty good value.
Yeah.
So I am a Blue Farm gamer. I play Blue Farm occasionally, but I think I generally see Blue Farm as this 4-color soup in which there's 30 flex slots for better or worse.
Yeah.
So can you just kind of pick out what we're looking here, the creature package, sort of the changes for this list particularly?
So for this list, I added in Oppo, Fairy Mastermind, Consecrated Sphinx.
Okay.
The rest of the cards aren't really
creature focus, right?
The rest of the creature package is pretty stable.
Okay.
Like you'll see the rest of the cards in almost every other Blue Farm deck.
Okay.
For the sorcery, something that's interesting is the Scheming Symmetry and the Beseech the Mirror.
Okay.
I just think I'm playing Cabal Ritual and Dark Ritual, and it feeds into the Beseech pretty easily.
Yeah, and Smothering Tithe works pretty well with those as well.
Yep.
Specifically with Beseech.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can grab whatever you want off of Beseech in this deck. Usually, like, you're not going to tutor up a Force of Will. And the rest of the deck is 4 drops and below. Scheming Symmetry has a great synergy with the opposition agent we talked about earlier, where you want to target 2 opponents with it with an opposition agent in play. And then you'll just take 2 cards from their library. Usually it's like an A+B combo or just even Grand Abolisher and Underworld Breach, and then usually that wins the game because you can also see what kind of interaction.
Or you can get Tainted Thassa's, or you can get double protection, or you can get half of A+B and a protection piece. I mean, there's so many flexible things you can do
for
with
sure.
in Oppo.
But it gives you 2 Gitaxian probes so you can see what your opponents are trying to do too.
Yep, that's pretty solid. I think that the rest of the cards here, and at least in the sorceries, are pretty uncuttable from this list.
Yeah, 100%.
So we're going to kind of skip over some of those. What are the big changes to Instance here?
Instance, there's a Commandeer in
I
the
see
main
that.
board.
Yeah, my eyes were drawn to that.
Since I don't have to play Ad Nauseam, well, that's a little hard, but I'm not playing Ad Nauseam in this thought experiment.
Yeah.
I can play higher value cards like Commandeer. It's pretty game warping to just early game pitch 3 whatever cards and just
Well, two blue,
two blue cards.
Yeah.
Usually they're just counter spells or whatnot.
Mhm.
And then you steal a Rhystic Study and you'll just get the cards back anyways. Or even a Mystic Remora isn't bad either.
Is this a reflection off of your experience with Kinnan?
Yeah. I've been playing Kinnan recently, and stealing value engines with it has been pretty game warping.
Of course, yeah. Especially with that deck able to convert basically double mana from any of your sources. Obviously, that's a simplification of that, but the deck makes mana, so finding card draw is kind of the hard part.
Yeah,
but if you can
100%.
steal some card draw, then you're good.
Yep. And like at worst, right? You just steal someone else's Ad Naz or Necro.
Oh
Oof.
no, guys!
Oops.
Yeah,
I mean, just because I'm not running Ad Naz or Necro in this deck doesn't mean I don't want to resolve.
well, it seems like you're
one.
not a Flare of Duplication gamer in this list.
So in this list, I'm
think
not
it's-
running the like required amount of red creatures to make it
Yeah, you've
work.
got
I'm
one
only
and,
on
like-
Ragavan and Crom.
You've got 1.1 creatures here, and then Crom.
Yeah.
And we're not sacking Crom for any reason, so that makes sense.
Yep.
Fire Covenant's kind of an outlier.
Yeah, Fire Covenant's great. I mean, since we're not using our life total for Ad Nauseam or Necro, we can use it for stuff like Fire Covenant, right?
Pump all of our life into that and start killing shit.
Yeah. I used to actually play this like a year, 2 years ago, like when my Blue Farm deck was completely a control deck. I'd run Fire Covenant, Psych Rift, and Dam, 3 sweepers
Wow.
in the deck. And I've always thought that Fire Covenant overperforms just because it's an instant. It's not blue either.
It also
So-
lets you kind of selectively kill stuff instead of just
Yeah.
wipe.
It doesn't have you kill your own stuff. So usually you'll resolve a Fire Covenant and then draw 3 cards with Tymna because there's no more.
I can see
blockers.
politically how Fire Covenant can also be good because you can point it at someone's pieces that are threatening a win, and then you can have other players kind of back you up on it.
Yeah.
And you can say like, "Hey, I'm trying to remove this piece. I really could use some help.
Sure.
I'm not just generically wiping the board because then they're less likely to help you." Anything else to comment here on instance?
The misdirection in the deck, same thing as Commandeer. It's next
Here we
to
go.
the tutor,
Yep.
yeah. Same thing as the Commandeer. We're not playing Ad Nauseam, so we can afford to play different pieces of interaction that might not be commonly seen. I think it's great because it also it bounces removal. It doesn't counter it, so you can have it target something else, and
That more favorably
Yeah.
helps you.
yeah, that helps you.
It's
and
another
then-
SWAT kind of.
It's like bad.
It's bad SWAT, but also it's blue and it can pitch to other blue cards. It's not the worst card I've seen.
It's just another piece of free interaction, and
Yeah.
if we're not going to be using our life total for Ad Naz, I'm okay with doing this.
This is the most expensive version of Misdirection outside of the old original foil, I believe. And I can see the price of this card in a year being easily double what it is
Yeah.
right now.
My friend actually owns a Cold Snap Commandeer, the OG one.
Wow.
So it's like $92. He bought it for like $30 before all the Yuriko players started playing it.
Well, now Kinnan players are playing Commandeer and
so
Misdirection
it's
too.
probably
So,
expensive.
and I think Misdirection is just it's a force of will when you need it to be, which is when you play something like Rhystic Study. So if you have like Rhystic Study, Misdirection, and like I don't know Valley Flood Caller, you can go cool. I'm playing Rhystic Study, and someone Swan Songs it. You can misdirect the Swan Song onto Misdirection.
Yeah. And the thing is, right, since we're playing engines, right, we're usually tapping out on turns like 1, 2, or 3 even. And just a higher density of free interaction prevents you from just straight up dying to random turbo decks at the table too.
Yeah, agree, 100%. Awesome. I'm pretty big on Misdirection. I'm seeing it. I'm playing it in a lot of my decks. You'll see it in the next deck that we talk about. Anything else worth noting in the instance here?
No, I think everything's pretty standard for
Okay.
Blue Farm.
Artifacts looks kind of normal, except
It's pretty normal. Some people aren't playing the One Ring. Usually people just play a copy Artifact instead
Yeah.
to copy the One Ring.
are you on copy Artifact too?
Maybe, I think so.
Okay, let's take a look.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, weird.
Weird.
So copy Artifact, Mirror Maid, and Rhystic Study.
Yep. I'm not playing copy enchantment though, because I like Mirror Maid more. It's just more flexible. Copies artifacts and enchantments.
Interesting. Yeah, I think on my list I'm not on copy artifact, but I am on copy enchantment.
Yeah.
So I think that's a stylistic thing, but
I just value the flexibility of copy artifact more than copy enchantment. It's just a 2-drop, right?
it is yeah, super cheap.
At worst, it just copies a talisman and bam, you have a 2-mana talisman. Or you just copy a soul ring. That's pretty good too. Copy a wish claw, copy a 1 ring.
Right. So what are your like expected play patterns with this, and how do you think in your mental image of this deck, how does it play out versus how the old or say the other list would play out?
Usually, right now I'm playing a more proactive blue farm deck. That's a different kind of style I'm trying to play. But with this one, I want to just sit back, relax, ask people as many times as I can. Do you pay for the 1? Crom trigger, consecrated sphinx trigger. Do you pay the 4? Like,
yeah, exactly.
all of that. And then usually you just find a Born Upon a Wind or a Valley Floodcaller and win as late as you can into the game when everyone else has nothing.
You literally sit there until the last thing on the stack from your opponent is the Thassa's Oracle trigger, and then you're like, no one has anything? Interesting. Okay, anyway, here's
Born Upon a Wind. Bam.
Yeah. Got him right in
Or even like the biggest bait too. Yeah, I'm casting a silence to stop his necropotence or his ad nauseum. You know, you guys need to protect this, and then it gets protected, right? Because we don't want to see those resolve.
Which you can say that in truth because it is true.
Yep.
But also you can have those cards in your hand that you can push for something after the silence resolves.
Yeah, for sure. It's happened.
I think the best part is like
times.
you don't have to lie in CDH to make those plays, but you can be
either.
deceitful, which I think is almost
I think it's more about telling your own truth, right? Like
my truth.
Yeah,
my truth is that I need this silence to go off so I don't lose.
Yeah.
But also like I might win. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Anything else to say about this list before we move on to the next one?
No, I think it did great for a Thigh Experiment deck. I'll build it sometime soon just to play it out.
You have
right
probably
now
most of this in your sideboard anyway.
Yeah, it's all in my sideboard.
Hey,
right
people are going to comment about you smacking the mic because it's
Gotcha.
going to hear. You're going to come through, but it's
Gotcha.
all right. We'll yell at you later in the comments.
Sounds good.
Get him. I think it's good to stretch your legs as a brewer and a deck builder and as a player to say, well, what is really possible in the shell or in the deck that I play, and am I ignoring some strategies here because I'm just so ingrained and so used to certain things? And whether it turns out to be anything or not is, I think, immaterial. But you might learn some lessons here.
Yeah, I mean, like the real thought process behind brewing decks for me is just what do I learn from it, right? I'll brew some random commander like Rograk and Silas. You know, that's definitely not seen before. But
yeah.
I'll try to glean all the play patterns, what I need to know about the deck, what I'll see if I play against it, what are its winning points, what are its losing points.
Right. Yeah. So going on to Rogsai, you may have heard me talk about this in another video that may be coming out after this one. Who knows what our release schedule is like? But this is my wrong side list because all of this feels very wrong, but it's kind of doing okay.
Yeah. I think traditionally speaking, Rogsai is more of a turbo necro deck or a turbo ad nauseum deck, where you want to just resolve one of those black payoffs and try to convert to a win, because Rograk's a pretty good commander, even if some people don't understand what it does. It's more there for the mana battery and ability to turn on your free spells like Flare of Duplication.
So I think the old pattern was that you could Naz or Necro, try to find that mana payoff afterwards with like a Dockside or something like that. And by something like that, I mean like Dockside or a clone for a Dockside or another clone for a Dockside or who knows what, or a Snap for a Dockside or some sort of mana payoff. But now we don't really have those mana payoffs. There's no easy way to convert that. You almost have to convert your free rocks into a win, because if you go for a Naz, you can't main phase Naz anymore, and you kind of have to wait for like a top of the stack Naz or something like that.
Yeah, or even like an end step ad nauseum into your turn to untap with your like 2 or 3 lands in play too.
It doesn't feel good. And I see some Rogside lists playing like Rain of Filth now just to have that extra mana or that mana battery.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't really want to. I
Sack
don't want
all
to
your-
stone rain myself.
Sack all your lands, screw up because of all the Rhystic Study players. and
Exactly.
then-
Like, I don't want to stone rain myself so that I get sent to the Shadow Realm and like fail.
Yeah.
So I think the next closest thing to playing Nas or playing Necro is playing 8 Rhystic Studies. And by 8, I mean like 3. But
Yeah. Or like, so like Ad Nauseam, right? It's just a burst of cards. So like what I was thinking, right, is that we just want consistent card draw in this deck. So there's stuff like Consecrated Sphinx,
of course, we got to have the Consecrated Sphinx.
Secret Denver tech.
Clever Impersonator. Are you an Impersonator in
Not in that
Okay.
blue farm deck. I don't think. So like I'm running white spells too, so I get Esper Sentinel.
And I think the 3 colors of this deck actually sort of benefit this strategy a little bit. White spells are very powerful. There's no question about that. I don't really like white, and I don't like 4 colors. So I'm
You heard
kind
it
of-
here first. He doesn't like white.
Yeah, no whites allowed here, baby. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I think that the 3 color allows you to dive a little bit deeper into the 3 or the 3 best colors or the 2 best colors. Allows you to dive deeper into
it keeps
blue.
you focused on like the big cards in those colors.
Think of how much easier it is to commandeer in this deck versus the 4 color deck.
for sure.
And whether that's more powerful or not, I think that's up for debate. But yeah, so Clever Impersonator, Consecrated Sphinx, pretty much every flash enabler outside of the lands.
Yeah.
We're on High Fae and Valley Floodcaller and Aura Thief.
Aura Thief.
Aura Thief is tech that I picked up from Freedom Waffle, and he kind of told me about this after Snowy Summit. And I was thinking, I was like, man, it is a 4-drop, which would be okay in Glarb, but I don't have any way to kill it in Glarb. Like,
No.
freaking, there's no sack outlet, there's no kill spell. I'm on like Deadly Rollick, and like that's it, which does not work with this card.
Yeah.
But when this card dies from the battlefield, you gain control of all enchantments. It's pretty good.
Take all the tides. Take all the Rhystics. That's what we want, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we want. And I think there's almost 5 ways to kill it here.
Yeah. There's like all the Rog Rack payoffs is usually what we're using, right?
Yeah, like Infernal Plunge, Culling the Weak,
Phyrexian
Tower, Diabolic Intent. There's probably one more.
Yeah, I mean
Red Blast.
Red Blast, Pyroblast.
Yeah, so there's 6 at least.
Yeah.
But there's some good ways to kill this, and
OBM kills it.
twice.
Watch
Yeah,
out.
we gotta hit it
Watch
twice.
out.
Okay, so seems like there's some good ways to kill it, and in consistent ways to kill it, and then we're running Notion Thief.
Yeah. If people got engines on board, you just play it, and then they won't draw cards anymore.
Right. The sorceries looks fairly standard to me. We're on 3 wheels,
Yeah.
which are pretty good into Notion Thief and Sphinx.
Yeah, they are. You know, that sounds so great. Just like Wheel of Fortune into Sphinx. You just ask your opponents if you can resolve 21 Sphinx triggers, draw 42 cards. Woo.
Plus the 7 that you're already drawing,
Yeah.
so 49.
And then every top deck tutor you draw, you just responded the triggers and vamp.
Yeah, because
and
they're all
then draw the
individual
cards
triggers.
again.
Yep. So that would be a nightmare to resolve. But
Yeah, to try to resolve.
I actually don't know. What do you think? I think there's sometimes where I would want to wheel into Notion Thief more than I would want to wheel into Sphinx.
Oh no, denying your opponent's cards just to, like just drawing 28 cards is pretty busted by itself.
Yeah.
That's basically a Nas.
Right, and then they have nothing.
Yeah, they don't have
They either
any
have 1 card or
interaction.
0.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and also like being able to do these at instant speed with the amount of flash enablers we have.
For sure.
Kind of have a flash enabler or one of these pieces on board, and then somebody goes for a win, and you go, "Cool, here's my flash, and then here's a wheel.
Yep.
Let's see what happens."
Yep. And then they got nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Instance, the aforementioned Commandeer. I think we're on the normal pieces of like Chain of Vapor. I know that a lot of people in their decks, not Rogsai, but in other blue decks, are not super high on Chain of Vapor. But this lets us bounce our rocks and kind of replay them, get that
Also,
mana back up.
Also sacks all of our lands to Underworld Breach lines too, if that's required.
Yeah, there's a lot of like minor synergies that it's pretty good with. One of the cool things about Rogsai as a mid-range list is that it actually defends against Turbolist extremely well.
Yeah, with Rograk being a 0-drop, you just play it and have all your free interaction active almost.
Yeah, and we're on all three pieces.
Yep.
We're on Fierce, Deadly Rollick, and Deflecting Swat.
Hey, Flare. Turns on Flare too.
Excuse me. We're also on Flare.
Yep.
Flare of Duplication. I mean, stealing somebody else's Nas if they're running that, if they're dumb enough to run Nas.
Yeah. Nas bad card, guys.
You heard it here first. And then just like a giant counterspell suite and just being able to like selectively use our counterspells. We're going to be drawing cards, or hopefully the game plan is to draw more cards than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to set up turn 1, turn 2 engines with Rograk as your mana battery, right? Because you get access to Mox Amber and all those effects.
I mean, we have basically a Mox Amber in the command zone.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. Misdirection, we talked about that card in your list. Seems really good here as well.
Great.
Sink into Stupor I chose to run because it's an extra blue card that is a land.
Yeah.
And on the off chance that we draw it and we don't need it or we can't play it as land, it's another blue thing to pitch.
Yep. Or it also stops uncounterable things too, because it just puts it back in their hand.
When did that happen to you?
Ooh, I've been subtletude before, but I've never been synced before. Oh, actually, just kidding. There's the Basalt Monolith I got synced on.
So Jason and I on Saturday were in a what was it, round one?
Round one, yeah.
Round one of locals. We were against each other, and I was like, I do not have a way to win this game. However, I was playing this deck. He was playing Kinnan, and I'm like, I think I have enough interaction where I feel comfortable that I can push for a draw, because if the game state just gets too complicated or it draws out so long that like I can just sit on this amount of interaction, and regardless of what people are going to do, I can push for a draw. And I think that's a really important aspect for decks to be able to do right now.
Yeah, especially in Swiss, where games are just kind of unpredictable by nature, right? Because you get 3 random opponents,
Yes.
and then you.
What kind of decks are we seeing at locals where we get 3 random opponents?
Oh man, I've seen
Just the best of the best,
I've
right?
seen, like the Doctor Companions. Those are
Random stacks decks.
Yo.
We've seen a few precons flying around, but you know,
unfortunately, that is the case. Shout out to the Osgur player.
yeah, nice guy, but like I think he was woefully unprepared.
Yep. Asked if he asked if the sorcery in his hand would be okay for taking out Necro on the next turn.
Oh my god.
So
yeah, and like I think that maybe that everyone's local situation is not like that, but something to recognize is that Swiss is the make or break. Like once you're out of Swiss, that's kind of the hard part, is getting out of Swiss for a lot of people. I think I struggle with that a lot too.
For sure. I mean, it feels like, well, it's unpredictable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you start losing really hard because you're already in that mindset of losing, or you're tilted, right? You're more pressured to try to win your next games.
Do you think there's any validity to tanking your first game of Swiss so you get matched against players that already lost?
No. Actually, winning your first game actually gives you 5 points. That gets you closer.
Oh, really? Okay, is that how that works?
Yeah. Also, your opponent win percentage actually skyrockets if you just keep playing against better opponents.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen some people speculate that you just try to draw your first round and you play you play something like Tivit, right? And then try to get through the.
I mean, Tivit doesn't convert to
bracket.
wins normally. It's just a draw deck, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You usually try to get through the draw bracket, you know.
Yeah.
Get all the people who drew, and then try to break through.
You know what's worse than being a loser? Being a drawer. Yeah. So I think regardless of like in Swiss, your deck has to be generically good enough to convert a win, regardless of what your opponents are playing. You have to be able to play through those random stacks decks or those random storm decks or Crick Turbo or who knows what. Like you have to be playing a generically good deck and a good pilot to like consistently convert through Swiss.
Yep, and then like usually you get some pilots too that you can't really get through in Swiss. Sometimes they'll have like a different idea of how the game should be played.
Or they're just presenting like a mental brick wall to you, and you're like, okay, like I just need to do my own thing. And
And then like when you convert to like top cut, right, you'll usually be faced with like all the killers. They know how the game quote unquote should be played. You know, your random spells aren't getting countered for little to no reason.
I've never seen Rhystic's resolve so fast as in Top Cut.
Yep.
Because what there's no incentive to counter a Rhystic study.
Yeah, usually like
I'm not wasting a Force of Will. I'm not even thinking about wasting a Swan Song.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna play a fish, I'm certainly not wasting a Mental Misstep.
That's a little hard for me to think
That's my
about,
opinion, though.
But
I mean, Mental Misstep counters silence.
it does. It does.
Okay, but you're not silencing on turn 1. You're playing a fish on turn 1. I gotta hold that misstep.
True.
I don't know. That's my opinion, but I'll go back to this deck list a little bit. I don't think there's really too much else here aside from like we're on the One Ring.
Yeah, One Ring.
And huge amount of artifacts. Still on D grid, able to flash that out on our turn or
on someone else's turn.
that's so funny.
You know,
I've never done that accidentally. Don't worry about that.
Never done that before.
What I did was I flashed out D grid. This is an earlier version of the deck. I flashed out D grid and everyone went okay. And then
it was at that charity event.
It was at the charity event.
Round 1. I walked over. It
wasn't round 1.
No?
It wasn't. It was like round 3. I think.
Okay, gotcha. But I walked over. I saw a D grid on the stack, and I saw it wasn't your turn, and I was like, "Wow, he's about to punt."
Well, all I did was just play on top of it,
Yeah,
and then because people actually threw interaction at the D grid and not knowing. But
that's kind of crazy.
I mean, that's my opponent's punting too.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, punt for punt is whatever. But learned that lesson, and then enchantment wise, we're on Mirror Maid, Copy Enchantment, obviously Rhystic and Fish, and Underworld Breach.
You can copy your Underworld Breach.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What is that going to do for us?
Hey! It keeps you from getting Boseiju.
You can do it in response to a Boseiju if you have Flash.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And then 25 lands, which is up +1.
Yeah, usually Rockstar lists run 24.
Right.
But I think the MDFC is counting, right?
No, the 25 plus MDFC.
Oh, okay.
So 26-ish, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's high, but it helps with that consistency and just getting that sort of early draw engine
For sure.
online. Anything else you want to say about this? Oh, you had played this deck. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I actually played this deck a couple nights ago, just at like a random like pickup games and stuff.
Oh wait, do we finish our story about me drawing the game with in locals?
No.
Okay. Sorry, ADHD brain. Jason and I were at locals. I didn't think I could win, so I tried to push for a draw. Jason he's like, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna draw maybe we'll see where this goes.
We're drawing anyway.
It's classic Jason, just like guys, we should draw, and then all of a sudden it turns into, I don't know, I don't really want to draw. I want to see where this goes, which means he has something in his hand that pushes him towards a win, which is not like it's not like a read on a player, but it's just, it's like I'm waiting for those words to come out of your mouth to go. Okay, guys, I'll draw and like stick your hand out. Well, that like never happens because you always have something. So I'm waiting, and then finally the last thing on the stack is Basalt, and he's fully tapped out. Like
fully tapped.
I mean,
out.
this is a stack that is like what 10 spells or something.
10 spells deep.
Yeah, and then the only thing I had in my hand in response to Basalt was Sink into Stupor, and he's like, "All right, we could draw."
Yep.
So yeah, I sunk the Basalt, and like you don't have mana to cast it. It's just that's it.
Nope.
But yeah, let's talk about your experience playing the deck because I got to play with it at locals. It seemed pretty good, and like it just feels kind of awkward, a little bit stumbling because we're so used to these ingrained patterns of Rogsai.
Yeah,
and it kind of goes against that a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell me about your experience playing it.
My experience playing this deck, I think I got a turn 2 Rhystic Study every game at least, and I cloned it on turn 3 using the Impersonator, or my clone would get countered and I'd play a One Ring instead because I drew it off of the.
So I think the one game you had a Rhystic Study and you went to copy it with like Copy Enchantment or something, and then someone countered it like, no, one is bad enough, like you can't have two.
Yep.
And I think it was often offer you can't refuse.
It was an offer you can't refuse.
And then so he's like, oh, I get to make 2 treasures, sick.
Let's go.
And then made 2 treasures, drew a card from Rhystic Study, and
It was the One Ring, and I had a Dark Ritual in my hand, so I just Dark Ritual into the One Ring, and it felt pretty good.
yep. And then the deck is like full of free interactions. So you have Rograk on the board, you have a draw engine in Rhystic Study, you have a draw engine in the One Ring. How do you feel passing the turn? Like you feel pretty safe, right?
I never felt like I was ever gonna lose that game because I had so many pieces of interaction, and I had tutored up a defense grid into my hand.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I tutored up a defense grid into my hand so I could just jam next turn. And throughout the turn cycle, nothing comes down that I need to be worried about. Then I just jam a defense grid and everyone doesn't have interaction. And I'm like, wow, it's just this easy to jam.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we have another defense grid that's in the deck, which I've been running for a while, to be fair. And I think I'm kind of known for this card is Malevolent Hermit.
Oh, that card.
I think it's like pretty solid because you can just sit on it and
you can discard it to Faithless Looting. I don't think you're playing that anymore.
I'm not on Faithless Looting. We cut it for another draw engine.
Usually it's pretty good because we're drawing like a trillion cards, right? We just discard it on end step and then just bring it back next turn. And if it doesn't get countered, they definitely lose the game.
The front side's totally fine too.
Yeah,
it's like Spell Pierce but +1.
Is that miscast?
No,
oh, it's miscast, but for non-creatures.
Non-creature.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Spell Pierce, right?
Yeah,
+1.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's counter target non-creature spell unless that player plays 3. Yeah, and like that's a pretty impossible cost for most decks.
You just hold up the stick.
Yeah.
The big stick.
And no one wants to go for it because you're just like, I have to now pay for this thing or I have to kill it or something.
For sure.
So it's pretty cool. And then, so that was the one game. Any other takeaways about like the other game? Because you won both games, I think you played with this.
Yeah. The other game, I also just had a draw engine in play, and Mystic Remora, and then it got my turn 2 Rhystic Study after the turn 1 Mystic Remora was countered, so I just kept on the fish for a while. I didn't draw that many lands, honestly, during the turn rotation. And then on turn 3 with just like 2 lands and like a Chromox, I think, and an Ancient Tomb in play, I just converted every ritual into a win.
Yeah, because you had, I think, a bunch of rituals that you played. You're just like, oh, I'm just going to explode out of the gate now. Because even though I don't have any lands, I have these mana positive things that I just get me there.
For sure.
Did you feel like you were able to just kind of safely pay for Rhystic? You always had the tools to pay for the Mystic Remora, I don't
like paying for Mystic or Rhystic. Surprise, surprise!
I didn't mean paying for others. I just meant like paying for the cumulative upkeep.
Oh yeah, I don't have a problem with tapping out. I'm pretty known for having my Remora go up to 6 or 8 locally, so it's completely fine with me to.
Do you think the deck enables you to do that? Because it's just very mana efficient.
100%. It's super mana efficient, and most of our interaction is free or just 1 pip, right?
Well, that and the rituals, a lot of them are instant speeds. Yeah. So being able to ritual at like your upkeep and go, I'm just gonna pay for it, and then like I still have my lands on tap or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Or even like. You can Simian Spirit Guide into a Pyroblast too. That thing, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So I think overall the deck has been feeling pretty good. Do you want to take a look at some of the like opening hands and just kind of do like a test?
Yeah. We can do that.
Just for fun.
Yep. Let's see.
Hopefully this is big enough to see on the screen here, but looks like we've got land, double land. And what is that? Chain of Vapor,
Born Upon a Wind, Rhystic Study, and Clever Impersonator. I think this is a great hand, right? You just bluff interaction on turn 1 with your command tower, and then turn 2 you just tap out for a Rhystic Study.
And you never pay for you never put Tomb first, right? You always do like a
yeah, because you can bluff interaction with your pips, right? And you have Rograk out in play too. So
I don't even think you need to bluff interaction. You have a Chain of Vapor, which is not the worst piece.
Yeah, it's not the worst piece.
No one's gonna sack their land on turn 1.
I hope not.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a keep. So I think we've got a pattern of play land, play Rograk, pass, play Ancient Tomb, play Rhystic. Hopefully it's good. Then the next turn, I mean, this hand is so good. We don't even consider what the 2 cards that we're drawing by turn 3, or
For sure.
or the 3 cards we're drawing by turn
Or
3.
even like the cards you draw off Rhystic Study too.
Right. This is a keep. If I were drawing no cards for turn, I would still keep this.
Me too.
Yep. So that's pretty solid. Let's see if we can get another hand here.
Oh, that one's a no lander.
No lander. We're shipping it. So let's say this is on. We're down to 6 now.
Okay.
That's a lot of lands.
That is a lot of lands.
Sol Ring Burgi though.
Ooh, that's
And
a little,
Fairy
That's
Mastermind.
a little hard, but I don't see draw engine. I don't see tutor for draw engine. So I don't really like this because if you're playing the front side of Burgi, you don't have anything to convert, right? And the Fairy Mastermind is a little iffy. It doesn't want to be like your main draw engine. It's more of like a tertiary draw engine.
Or a really bad backup option if you have nothing else.
Yeah.
All right. So let's ship this down. We'll go down to 5.
Oh, I kind of like this. I get punished for this all the time, but but Land Remora is
Okay. So
seems
land
pretty
Remora
fit.
is an interesting thing. I would land Ragavan and then turn 2 Remora.
I'd like to draw a second land off the Remora or off of your draw for turn, and then pay for Remora on turn 2 and play the Ragavan.
Not knowing the pod composition, that's fair. Let's say you have another player that you're probably going to be able to swing in with Ragavan. Like that's kind of a land, right? Like,
Yeah,
Right.
It kind of is.
but I think that people are less likely to play a bunch of rocks and a bunch of non-creatures on turn 1. And I think that if you can pay for fish over and over again, it's probably a little bit more valuable and it sticks around a little bit longer. But you said you've gotten punished for like the turn 1 Remora time.
Sure.
I've been liking, not as a hard rule, but like I see this and I go, okay, I'm already down to 5. I kind of am valuing the cards that I have more.
Sure.
So I think the safer play, at least for a 5 on this for me, is turn 1 Ragavan, turn 2 fish.
Maybe it's just the greed in me.
Maybe it is. But that's probably why you're ranked higher than me too.
No.
What would be the 2 that you ship down?
It's definitely the thief and the. No, actually, I shipped.
Because we got High Fate here too.
I shipped the Flash Enabler and the Consecrated Sphinx, right? The Notion Thief will get you to the end game.
Or at least stall you out.
Yeah, stall you out.
Or not stall the table out. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't think High Fae or Consecrated Sphinx brings you into the later part of the game.
I agree, 100%. Let's take a look at a fresh 7 and see. Actually, let's see what I draw for turn. Intent.
Oh.
So what is that, Ragavan then?
Oh yeah, that's Ragavan.
Yeah. So that's turn 1 Ragavan. Turn 2 swing, sack Ragavan, find another draw engine or a land maybe.
No, I just play the Remora and sit there. I
Really?
think that's a fine play.
Really?
Yeah, you don't want to sack the Ragavan if you're.
No. Sorry. Okay, so you're saying in that case, since you draw that, you're playing Ragavan.
Yeah,
Okay, but then you're not sacking Ragavan
I'm not sacking
to the
Ragavan
D
to
intent.
tutor.
Okay,
It
you would just
it
play
doesn't,
fish.
It doesn't make sense to.
Okay, that's fair. All right, let's take a look at another 7.
I'd ship this as a 7. I don't really like it, right?
I don't see anything that this doesn't do anything. We've got 2 red pieces of interaction. Don't particularly care about. Those are really good in the late game. And then obviously Breach is the late game. Win con. Intent is okay, but like, what am I gonna get here?
Yeah, I don't think this.
It's
is
like a turn 3 study at best,
good-
right?
I don't think this is good for us.
Yeah. Okay, let's ship it and we'll try a second 7.
Oh, I don't like this either.
This is turn 2 wheel, right?
Wheel with OBM, right? Because that's.
But how do you get
that's
OBM
5.
out early?
Right, because you turn 1 Mana Confluence, Rite of Flame, Grim Monolith, turn 2
Oh, okay.
land Bowmaster Wheel, but
That's not the worst plan. I don't know that I'd keep it on a second 7, but if I were
wouldn't
going down to
either.
4 or 5, I'd probably keep something
yeah,
like
because
this.
if you get that wheel countered, you are completely blown out, and no one has real intention to keep your wheel on the stack with a Bowmaster in play. So.
No. Yeah. So this is a high risk hand, is what you would evaluate it
For
as.
sure.
So ship this and go down to 6.
If you're seat 1, I'd keep this.
Oh.
I'd keep this just to blow out the table.
In Swiss, would you keep this?
I think so. I mean,
I wouldn't keep this. I wouldn't keep this in Top Cut. I don't think.
No. But people are less likely to keep interaction, right? Because you're just in a Swiss round. Your main objective is to win the game in Swiss, and in Top Cut, your main objective is to not lose the game.
Okay, so seat one, round one. You're playing this. You open this hand, and you're at Snowy Summit 3, and there's 5 rounds of Swiss. Are you keeping?
I'm jamming.
That's awesome.
I'm jamming.
Okay, so I like it. I like your perspective of changing up what you would keep based on the your assessment of like where you are at in the tournament. Even.
Yeah, like if you lose round one, right? Like I lost round one of Snowy Summit 2, and you're not pressured to try to win the game your first round. Obviously, it's great, right? If you win round one.
You want points, but
you can kind of get a feel for the day on what you want, and this is a confidence hand. That's what I would call it.
It'd be fun if you got it'd be a good story too.
It'd be a great story.
All right, so let's say we're in semifinals, so we're in top 16. Yeah. We're gonna ship this. So this is a 6.
Oh, that's a ship.
Yep. We're seeing no lands and nothing of value. A land and 3 rocks, misstep, and into the flood maw and Jessica's will. I think I'd keep this on a, what is this, a 6 now?
I'd ship it. I honestly would ship it because it just, all it does is make mana, and you're praying that your J will flip something. And I don't want to take that chance, right? Our deck is really more about tutoring up Rhystic Study or Mystic Remora and just sitting there.
Well, the other thing is, what are you putting under Chrome Mox here? Like you're putting
it's
Flood Maw, right?
It's Flood
But
Maw.
then like, okay, what does that get you? Yeah, you're right. You just get mana, and
it
then
doesn't get you anything.
Then you're flipping J will. But let's see what we flip off of J will. Okay, that's land for turn.
That's draw for turn.
Draw for turn. And then here's second, because we're not J willing turn 1, are we?
No, but I don't think we can.
So Vamp Tutor is pretty solid, but we can vamp into J will, I guess. But anyway. Let's go down to 5.
Let's see. This. Turn 2 study.
Yep. Here we go.
Turn
Keeping
2 study. I'd pitch the Coiling the Week and a land. Honestly,
you're keeping Breach.
Yeah, I'm keeping Breach. It's
why?
Fine.
Why do you? So, what is your theory about keeping Breach? Just because you have A in hand, you're looking for B.
So we're looking for Flash Enabler here, right, off of our Rhystic Study draws, or just a way to prolong the game where the Breach pays off. Because because you're going to be drawing the lands with Rhystic Study, right? So that's why I'm going to pitch Coiling the Week and the Exotic Orchard, actually. And just keeping the Misty Rainforest, which is just Underground Sea, or even Volcanic Island, right? I think Volcanic Island is better here because of the Pyroblast already in your hand. And you just turn to Rhystic Study.
Guys, this is all just like a scam for me to get like a free coaching session out of Jason.
No. Oh no, it's a free coaching session.
Yeah. I don't think I would have kept I would have kept this, but I don't think I would have kept the same cards on a 5. I think I would have probably put down Breach and possibly Red Blast, just hoping to draw for a mana payoff with Study. Although I'm not sure. I think I would just have to sit there and assess it, kind of like game time, and see what's happening. But keeping Breach is interesting. I'm more keen on like putting a win con on the bottom and just saving it for later, because I think like, especially in Swiss, who knows if I'm going to like randomly wield or something like that.
And then you just find another thing.
I guess.
Yeah,
that's a good point. All right. Well,
and if you're getting wheeled with the Study in play, that's pretty good.
It's kind of sus.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have any other comments on these 2 decks? These fine top tier, S tier decks that we've built?
Honestly, this is better than Canyon, Blue Farm, TNT.
Yeah.
Yep.
Coping. Sorry, we're huffing hopium.
Yeah. Bring up the primer.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The wait for this one.
Yeah.
Did you do anything in the primer for yours?
It's same image.
You just copied me?
No, I looked it up.
Yeah, we're huffing copium. Anyway. I hope that some of this was enlightening to our lovely viewers out there. Hopefully someone got something out of it.
I know Logan did with that free coaching session.
Hey, I'll never tell. Anyway, thanks for joining us, and it's good to have you. And this is our first episode together.
Yeah, first episode together.
We might get asked this, but we are not related, right? Nope. Not that we know of.
No, we
have the same last name. We're both
not related.
We're both Dones, but we're not related. So. Anyway, brother, thank you very much for joining me.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Have a good one. Subscribe and like the video.
Oh, man, you're even doing that, and I'm not doing that.